I'm Madison Mary and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, please don't hesitate to click that subscribe button down below. And without further ado, let's get into the video. If you did not know, twice a year I post a video talking about my anticipated debut books coming out. The first video covers January through June, and the second video, this one, covers July through December. So these are only debut authors. I really like to do this video because I don't know, I just think it's really fun to highlight debut authors who these are their very first books out in the world. Now these books do range from adult to YA, romance to fantasy. That's all it spans. It's either adult or YA, fantasy or romance. I don't really do much else, but I'm super excited to get into these for you. I'm gonna leave all the names of the books linked in the description box down below, and without further ado, let's get started. So the first book is an adult romance coming out on July 13th, and that is The Rules of Arrangement by Anisha Battia. So this romance is set in Mumbai, and we are following Zoya, and she's done well for herself. She's a very loving family, a great education. The only problem is that she's not the ideal Indian girl. She's overweight, she's spunky, and she's a bit too dark-skinned, and all the men seem to want slim, obedient, and fair-skinned wives. At the age of 26, she's kind of getting to the end of the marriage mart and she's getting a little bit worried. But just when her aunties seem to have found the holy grail of a suitor, she gets offered her dream job in New York City. So now Zoya has a choice to make. Will she stay in Mumbai and find a husband? Or will she take the leap and go to New York? Coming out on July 20th, we have She Who Became the Sun. Yes, I am lucky enough to own an arc of this book and I'm so excited. So this is an adult fantasy, its own voices, it's LGBTQ+, and it's a retelling of the Emperor of the Ming Dynasty. So it's set in 1345 China while they are still under the Mongols' rule. And during this time, every child is given a fate when they are born. And in the Zhou family, the 8th born son was given the fate of achieving greatness, while the 2nd born daughter was given the fate of nothingness. However, when a bandit attacks the carriage with the 2 children in it, the brother ends up dying while the daughter survives. And in order to survive in a world where women are deemed as objects, she ends up deciding to assume her brother's identity. I'm so stoked. It says Mulan meets the Song of Achilles, and that is just, oh my god, my nails match. That just sounds like pure perfection. And then on July 27th, we have an adult historical romance, and that is Not the Earl You Marry by Pembrooke. Now this is a wallflower fake engagement romance to the most eligible bachelor in London, which is one of my favorite tropes in historical romances, is wallflower arranged marriages. So we're following William, the Earl of Norwood, who is just as shocked by London society when he reads in the newspaper that apparently he is betrothed. And so William is pissed and decides he has to track down this alleged fiancée before she ruins his campaign to get this new political post. However, he soon realizes once meeting Miss Charlotte Hurst that maybe this fake engagement can benefit them both. Moving on to August. On August 10th, we have a YA horror fantasy. This is Mark of the Wicked by Georgia Bowers. So Matilda grew up always being told to use her magic only when necessary. However, Matilda isn't all that interested in being a good witch. She wants revenge and popularity. The only problem is that the dark magic that she uses leaves scars on her face. When one of her spells goes completely awry, she ends up hurting one of the boys in her school named Owen. She freaks out because she thinks that means her secret's out. However, it's not true, because Oliver already knew she was a witch, and in return for not spreading her secret, he wants to learn more about magic. However, as she starts to teach him more, some bizarre things start happening in town. Animals are turning up dead with their throats slashed, things are being stolen, and suddenly, a girl is dead. Matilda begins to realize that her magic is spinning out of control and that the choices she is making are not going to end well for anyone. Also on August 10th is another YA horror, and that is The Devil Makes Three by Tori Bovalino. Now this has to do with demons. So we follow Tess, who finds herself working this summer at a boarding school library, and she is not happy about it, especially because there's this annoying guy there named Elliot who just tries to make her life a living hell. However, the two of them end up coming across a grimoire in the ancient library and accidentally setting free a demon. The demon will stop at nothing to stay free, even if it means ruining everything in Tess's life. So excited for this. Grimoires, magic, demons, boarding schools, all buzzwords for me. I love it. On August 31st, we have Forestborn by Elayne Audrey Becker. This is an LGBTQ+ YA fantasy book. So we're following Rora, and she is a shifter and she uses her abilities to help spy for the king. However, when a magical illness starts spreading across the land, Rora makes an awful discovery. Her best friend and the prince has caught the illness. His only hope at survival is to be cured with stardust, but that is only found in the wilderness where Rora was first born. Rora swore to never return to the wilderness from where she came, but to save her best friend, she'll have to make the journey of a lifetime. And then lastly, also on August 31st, we have a YA historical fantasy, and that is The Witchhaven by Sasha Peyton Smith. So this is set in 1911 New York City, and this follows a young woman who finds out that she is a witch, and is then thrust in a battle between witches and wizards. So we're following Frances. She's 17 years old, she's a seamstress, and she's mourning the mysterious death of her brother a few months prior, and then when one of her patrons comes in and starts to try and attack her and take advantage of her, she's really confused when next thing she knows, the dude's just dead on the floor with a pair of scissors in his neck, and she's like, I didn't do anything, I don't know how this happened. Then these nurses come in and take her away to the sanitarium, which she's like, oh my god, I'm being taken to a mental hospital. But it's not. It ends up being a school for witches. And then when she gets there, she starts learning about these mysterious abilities that she has, and then she starts attracting the attention of their very dangerous leader. Then we're moving on to September. On September 7th, we have Among Thieves by MJ Khun. This is a YA LGBTQ plus fantasy. So we're following Rhea, who within the last year has risen the ranks to become the most notorious and deadliest blade in the dockland city of Karawik. However, Rhea is not her real name. For the past 6 years, she has been outrunning her fate from the guild master. Her path has finally come to the point where she has no choice but to face him, and in order to do so, she'll have to team up with a group of miscreants to do so. So excited for this Six of Crows-esque book. Also on September 7th, we have The Charm Offensive, which is an adult male-male romance. So this takes place during a reality dating TV show, and we're following Charlie, and Charlie is this like tech wonder kid. He's really famous, really well known for being super smart, but he's hella awkward, and he ends up getting placed as like the bachelor on this dating show. The only problem is that because he's so awkward, it's really not doing well for the show's ratings, so the producer, Dev, decides to step in and kind of help coach Charlie. However, the two of them actually end up slowly falling for one another, and that is not how the story was supposed to go. I love this. On September 14th, we have a YA romance, and that is It All Comes Back to You by Farah Nisrishi. After Kiran's mother died, she vowed that she would always stay close to her dad and her sister. However, when her older sister says that she is moving cross country to be with her new boyfriend, she's thrown off kilter. Dean, on the other hand, is so thrilled that his older brother has found a new girlfriend and is getting serious, because now his parents' focus will shift off him. The only problem is that Dean and Kiran actually have a secret past. 4 years ago, before their siblings met and dated, the two of them did. But it ended horribly with Dean ghosting Khun, and they have not gotten past that ever since. I'm so intrigued by this because it just seems like it's gonna be a royal mess and a half. Like, you two used to date, but no one ever knew you dated, and then it ended horribly, and now 4 years later, your siblings are dating, and you're like, well, what are we gonna do now? And I'm just like, I'm so excited. Then on September 21st, we have an adult fantasy, and that is Mage by J.S. Kelley. This is set in a kingdom where magic fuels everything, from street lamps to horseless carriages. And because of that, in this kingdom, the mage guilds hold just as much power as the king. So when Lord Edmund's infant son is kidnapped by the ruthless Alath Guild, there's only one person he can turn to that every other mage is afraid of. Rosalind Featherstone, the Gutter Mage. And then the last book for September comes out on September 28th, and this is a YA fantasy. It is Lakesedge by Lyndall Clipstone. When Violetta Graceling arrives at the haunted Lakesedge estate, she expects to find a monster. She knows all the terrifying rumors of Rowan Sylvanin, who drowned his entire family when he was just a little boy. However, when Violetta arrives, she realizes that he is not monster nor boy, and as Violetta begins to fall for Rowan, she learns that he is actually bound to the Lord Under, who is a death god lurking in the dark waters of the lake of the estate. How will she free him when she is inexplicably drawn to Lord Under in the lake? Oh my god, this is a gothic fantasy, and it kind of has like slight Beauty and the Beast-esque feelings to it, so exciting. Moving on to October. On October 5th, we have an adult paranormal, and that is Payback's a Witch. So we're following Emmy, and she's a witch, but she's not a very powerful one. And part of the reason why she lacks a lot of her powers is because she hasn't been back to her magical hometown in years. And the reason for this is the fact that she put herself in self-imposed exile after an awful breakup. And that was a breakup to Gareth Blackmore, who is the heir to the most powerful magical family in her town. However, when a magical tournament arises, Emmy decides that it's time for her to go back home. But when she gets there, she ends up running across a brand new witch in town named Talia. And Talia also had her heart broken by Gareth, and the two women decide to get payback on him. However, they fall for each other in the process. Oh my god, come on. two witches who are both burned by the same dude decide to get revenge on him and then fall for each other instead. Beautiful. Beautiful. Love it. Then on October 12th, we have a YA fantasy, and that is Jade Firegold by June C.L. Tan. Now, the blurb of this is really vague, but it is a Chinese mythology-based fantasy, and it says, An is no one, with no past and no family. Altan is a lost heir, his future stolen away as a child. When they meet, Altan sees in An a path to reclaiming the throne. An sees a way to finally unlock her past and understand her arcane magical abilities, but they may have to pay a far deadlier price than either could have imagined. So that they have to team up, basically. Also on October 12th is another YA fantasy, and that is The Keeper of Night by Kylie Lee Baker. So we're following Ren Sakabara. She is half British Reaper, half Japanese Shinigami. She has been collecting souls in the streets of London for centuries now. But when her Shinigami abilities go out of control, she is forced to flee London and return to Japan. Accompanied by her younger brother, Ren travels to the Japanese underworld to serve the goddess of death. However, she learns that to earn the respect of the goddess of death, she must complete an impossible task. Find and eliminate 3 extremely powerful yokai demons. Ren must make the choice to decide how far she will go to earn her acceptance. Moving to November, which is my birth month, on November 2nd, we have an adult romance, and that is The Donut Trap. We're following Jasmine Tran, and she has no boyfriend, no job prospects, everything's kind of going downhill for her, so she ends up moving back home to live with her parents and work in their donut shop. And her life starts getting a little bit monotonous, and she's getting a little frustrated because she's like, I want to break out of this cycle. I want to actually do something with my life. However, when a hike in rent occurs, Jasmine then finds herself in the position to help her family keep their shop alive. And help ends up coming in the form of her old college crush, Alex Lay. At first glance, he seems like the perfect marriage prospect to her parents. He is successful, he's easy on the eyes, and he's also Chinese. But after a disastrous dinner, it becomes clear that Alex is not so perfect. Now suddenly both their parents are against the relationship. And Jasmine is still stuck trying to find a way to get this donut shop to stay alive. But then an old college flame comes in, and I don't even know what happens next. Like, that is quite a messy sounding plot. Oh my god, she has an old college crush come in, her old high school flame comes in, the donut shop is failing, she doesn't know what she's doing with her life. It sounds like it's gonna be a donut mess of a time. That doesn't make any sense, a donut mess of a time. I'm gonna keep it that though, but it sounds like it's gonna be messy and I'm excited for it. Also November 2nd, we have another adult romance, and that is A Certain Appeal by Vanessa King. This is a Pride and Prejudice retelling, but New York City burlesque style. So we're following Liz Bennett, who has just arrived in New York City. During the day, she works as an executive assistant, and at nighttime, she works as a stage kitten at a burlesque show. And one night, she ends up locking eyes with a Mr. Darcy. She is determined to write Darcy off, but when their best friends fall in love, they are forced to spend some time with one another. And that is this romance. Lastly, for November, on November 9th, which is the day after my birthday, we have Within These Wicked Walls by Lauren Blackwood. Now this one is a Jane Eyre retelling, and it's also Ethiopian inspired. So we're following Andromeda, and she is a Deb Terra, which is an exorcist who is hired to clean households of the evil eye. When a handsome young heir named Magnus Rochester reaches out to her to help clean his estate, she realizes that there's a lot more than meets the eye. There are horrifying manifestations in every corner of the house, and she begins to realize that Rochester is keeping a couple more secrets than her than she was prepared to deal with. It seems like death is going to be the most likely outcome, but if she leaves Rochester alone, he is certain to succumb to his curse. So what choice will she make? And then lastly, we have the one book in December, and that is going to be a YA historical fantasy out on December 7th. It is called Heart of the Impaler by Alexander Delacroix. So we're following Luna, and she has been betrothed to this man that she has no desire to marry. However, that is the least of her worries because the royal family's enemies have already tried to kill her multiple times. And if anyone ends up discovering that she is actually not in love with her betrothed, but instead her betrothed's cousin, Andre, and her betrothed's younger brother, Vlad, she may just wish that they had succeeded in killing her. So beneath the shadow of an impending war, it seems like the battle is for Alona's heart. This one sounds like it's going to be a mess, and I can't tell if it's going to be polyamorous, but she's engaged to one man, but she's actually not in love with him and is instead in love with his cousin and also his younger brother. So it's like a love square is going on in this house. Damn. A love square. It's been a while since I've had one of those. Those are the bajillion debuts that I'm super excited that are coming out at the end of this year. Let me know if any of these are on your radar or if any of these are ones that you are 100% picking up and you're also excited for. And yeah, that's it for this video. If you did enjoy this, please hit the like button down below. If you want to see more of me, please go to my channel. And until next time, thanks a bunch everyone. Goodbye.